Hi guys, Jason here with the One Stop How To Guys, bringing you episode 2 of Music Theory. In this episode, we're going to be talking all about the staff. Now, the staff is the foundation for all music notation. It's made up of 5 lines and 4 spaces, and it's on these lines and in these spaces that our notes are going to find their home. Now notice that each of the lines are equally spaced apart. It's important when we're drawing our staves that we make sure that we are equally spacing our lines. If a musician were to be reading our composition and they would come across a portion of your piece where the lines were really close together and there was a note crammed right in between them, it could be very difficult for them to decipher which note they're actually supposed to be playing. So when you're drawing out a staff, make sure that your lines are straight and equally spaced apart. Now we're going to be adding a whole lot of stuff to this staff as this tutorial series progresses. Things like clefs and time signatures, key signatures, BPMs, repeats, notes. But for now, let's scale it back and just simply add some notes to this staff. Now the value of these notes are not important right now, but there is something that I want you to notice about them. Notice that a note that is placed in a space is not trailing too far off onto a line. In fact, it's confined nicely and neatly within its space. And notice that a note that is placed on the line is placed centrally on the line and is not trailing off into either of the spaces that surround it. Now, this needs to happen. This is a very, very important step when you start writing your music. Because if you have notes that are trailing too far onto a line or too far into a space, it will become extremely difficult for the people reading your composition to know what note you actually wanted them to play. So when we place our notes on the staff, it's important that we place them directly where we want them and centered right in the space or line that we want them on. Now, as we stated earlier, the staff is made up of 5 lines and 4 spaces. However, this staff can be extended if we need to add notes, say, above or below. And we do that using something called a ledger line. Now, the notes that are placed directly above and directly below the staff is what you're looking at right now, do not require a ledger line. However, when we start progressing beyond these points, we need to add them. Now, a ledger line is simply a small line that is placed above or below the staff to indicate how many steps above and below we've gone. Now, the ledger line needs to be exactly equally spaced as all 5 lines that we've already got. So say, for example, we wanted to add a note that was 2 spaces above the staff. Well, in that case, we would need to add a ledger line to our staff and then place the note on that line. And if we wanted to add a note that was 3 notes below the staff, then we would need to add a ledger line and then add the note below that ledger line. Now, we can continue to add ledger lines as much as we need above and below the staff in order to accommodate the notes that we would like to add to it. Now, as we progress, we will be talking about something that is known as the grand staff, which will really extend the bounds of our blueprint here, but we're going to talk about that after we talk about clefs, because then it'll make more sense. So let's take a minute and do a little exercise here. I'm going to show you a staff with some note heads on it, and for the current moment, these notes are unimportant in value. And I would like you to take a minute and see if you can identify all of the things that are wrong with this staff. Alright, let's see how you did. Well, the first thing that we can identify here is that we have several notes that are placed on lines and in spaces where they're kind of trailing off into the line or space that surrounds it, which again makes it very unclear to the musician what note they're supposed to be playing. Secondly, we have a portion of the staff where the lines start to get really close together, and it really starts to make the staff a little more unlegible. And finally, we have some notes above and below the staff that are using inappropriate uses of ledger lines. The note above is way far above and doesn't have any ledger lines to indicate what note it is, and the note below is using a ledger line where it doesn't need to be. So between now and the next tutorial video, I want to challenge you to start drawing some staves and start placing some blank note values on those staves and practice making sure that your lines are straight and that your notes are placed in the appropriate places. You can add notes above and below the staff using ledger lines and just get yourself all practiced up, because in the next tutorial video we're going to start talking about clefs, and clefs are going to give note values to each line in each space within our staff. So if you like this video, make sure you give it a like, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you in the next episode of One Stop How To Guys Music Theory.